come to order our workshop, August 26, 2020. All are present and accounted for. Welcome, citizens of Clay County. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend today's school board workshop. This workshop is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly among ourselves and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. There will be an opportunity for the public to ask questions at the end of the workshop presentation. Questions will be allowed. Public comment will not be allowed. If you want to ask a question, please fill out a comment card and hand that card to a deputy. Questions submitted prior to 4 p.m. on August 25th via the comment link on our website will also be addressed during the public questions portion of this meeting. Your participation is welcome and appreciated. I do want to ask the board something. It says that, you know, since this is a workshop and only questions could be answered, Ms. Kidwell has asked to speak for a few minutes. I didn't know if the board wants to allow that. Tina?
That's fine.
Okay, so we'll bend the rules.
We don't normally do this.
We don't normally at a workshop.
No, at a workshop.
Oh, why are the cards sitting out? I was confused
Well,
then.
because we got a special meeting coming up at 10.
That's right.
Oh.
But never mind, we're good. I just had to clear it with the board.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Number 1, review draft agenda for regular school board meeting on September 3rd, 2020. Mr. Brodsky,
good morning.
congratulations, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to remove my mask since I have 6 feet so that I can talk here. So a couple things, if I could. I'm just going to review all of this, and then it's my understanding that the next meeting, Madam Chair, doesn't start until 10 o'clock. So I think it's kind of I think that this is it's a lot of paper, but I think it's kind of a light agenda.
Right.
So I believe that we'll finish prior to the start of the 10 o'clock meeting. So maybe then we could, if I could make the suggestion, that we do all board comments and
Absolutely.
public
In fact,
comments.
that works better for me too.
Because part of the next meeting is a presentation on safety.
Right.
And we're doing that at the end. And so I think for everyone's sake, you know, everyone will be removed from here. So if we did all those comments up front,
At the beginning of the 10 o'clock, at the beginning of the 10 o'clock meeting? Okay, we'll do that.
Sounds fine.
That's
Is
an
yours
agreement with you.
relating to the agenda review or to the
The
next
10,
meeting?
it really is about safety.
Okay.
So we can
So
do
That's
that.
perfect.
Yeah.
So we'll do those
Yeah.
comments at the
That's a good
beginning.
decision.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you.
sounds good.
So number 1 is the review of the 2020-21 final millage rollback rate calculation. I think the first 5 or 6 of these are all procedural in nature.
Were there any changes to it?
No changes right now.
Any changes to any of the stuff that we had tentatively approved?
For the millage part of it, no, there were no changes.
For
the
all of
actual
that?
budget, yes, there will be some changes of which I'll have the presentation ready,
Okay.
for Thursday's meeting.
And is it changes that we'll be pleased with, or that we'll be like, oh man?
No, they're minor changes,
Minor,
really, it's just
okay.
standard, modifications that we did between now, the last meeting to Thursday's meeting.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's not, it's actually additions.
Okay.
Okay, number 2 is the public hearing for comments on the 2021 budget and millages. Number 3 is the required local effort millage. Number 4 is basic discretionary operating millage levy. Number 5 is the local capital improvement fund millage levy. Number 6 is the additional voted operating millage levy. Number 7 is the total millage levy. Number 8 is the educational facilities plan. So there'll be a presentation at the board meeting. You have the document both in paper form there, as well as on the backup there related to the educational facilities plan. So that will be presented at the board meeting next Thursday or this Thursday. And then the next one, number 9, is the total overall budget. Adopt the budget of all funds for 2021. And then number 10 is the resolution for determining revenues and millages levied. And number 11 then is the final budget. So the first 11 items are all budget related, including the EFP. The next item, Florida School Safe Schools Assessment Findings. There's going to be a special presentation at a special meeting relative to that particular item. And then to kind of go into the consent agenda at this point. Number 1 is the minutes of the workshop and the special meetings. Number 2 is a district technology plan. This is something that's relatively new. As part of the OPAGA audit, one of the recommendations was that we would have a 5-year plan for technology. And so this is the plan to adopt relative to technology. Ethan and his group's done a great job.
Did they collaborate with our teachers union on any of this?
I don't know if it was direct collaboration. Most of it is technological in nature. The infrastructure of it, security, those kinds of items. OPAGA, as well as there's additional audits by FLDOE and FDLE relative to the use of security. Now that everything is technologically based, security becomes a huge issue.
So Chief Wagner was involved in this?
I don't know if Chief Wagner was involved in the technology plan, but I think they were collaborated between departments. So in number 3 is the assessment calendar. You know, each year we have an assessment calendar. This calendar is very similar to every other year that we've had an assessment calendar. I would say openly that we've requested for assessments and the use of school grades, and the use of school grades to be dropped this year from DOE. You know, I think other states have done that, and so we've made that request through FADS and other organizations, but right now DOE is sticking to the concept of having state assessments. So number 4 is the personnel consent agenda. Of course, we'll be adding people onto that. I will say that HR has done a great job with hiring the folks. We still will be in need of teachers. There's about 28 teaching positions that are currently open. We did have people resign at the very last second relative to that, or take leave for a year, and just given the year that we have, to be at the point where we are in comparison to other districts is a celebration. And of course, we're working very hard. The whole room of people in pre-employment today. I don't know how many people are in there today because I passed by there. But we're moving as fast as we possibly can, given the situation, and they're doing a good job.
Now, I got a phone call last night from one of our kindergarten teachers at Coppergate, which I know you guys are aware of. There's Heather.
Right here.
Yeah. Liz said she talked to you about kindergarten, and are we addressing, she got 24 students yesterday, or
Well,
she will have
So I would
24
say,
students?
when it comes to class size, of course, just like every year, within the first 10 days, we'll make those adjustments. Please, everyone in the room needs to understand, with the addition of OCO, as well as brick and mortar, and the movement of people, you're going to see from the allocation change document the number of people who have moved. It's going to take those first 10 days.
Well, we
to
understand
get
that.
to that point.
And so what I was bringing up was, we may not have time to get it on, or might have to put it on this agenda as, you know, last minute emergency item. And I would be fine with that, because I know we can't wait till October.
So we have 10 allocations that are out there now that can be used
Okay.
for that purpose. We believe, based on preliminary student numbers, that the current allocations plus the 10 and ones that we have frozen since the start of this, which would have been in May, will give us enough allocations moving forward. You know, right now, you know, openly, class counts, the total district number of students is down, and we're assessing that. You know, it could be that the first day of school, people are nervous, and so they decide to not come back to school. This is a much different year. Believe me, we spent 3 hours looking at this yesterday afternoon after going to schools. We're on top of that, and we'll make all of the necessary adjustments. But we're talking about, you know, potentially very many teachers, you know, involved in this particular scenario. So just give us some time. I know board members, sometimes you get phone calls or emails and those kinds of things. So I try to give a brief summary of all of the areas where I thought you would get questions, and just forward those questions to me, and I'd be glad to take care of them. We're on it when it comes to dealing with folks. We realize people are nervous. We want to provide good customer service. I believe in customer service in a timely fashion, which, if you know anything about me, is my idea of good customer service is much quicker than most people when it comes to that. So we're dealing with all of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get, you know, phone calls, emails, etc.
Well, not one bus call for me. Anybody else?
Transportation did an awesome job.
Yeah.
Not to divert
Kudos to
from
them.
this, and you know, Daryl and I had a long conversation last night. He does a magnificent job, and is very receptive to listening to individuals, you know, on the phone, and kind of calming them down.
They were on top of it yesterday morning.
Did a
They were
great
there,
job.
they were helping the drivers.
He made it a
They were
point to specifically
totally
thank the board for the buses and having air conditioning,
Oh.
because
Oh, yeah.
bus drivers
There
were,
was-
they felt
Yesterday
a
particularly.
renewed sense of pride.
Well, especially now they're wearing a mask. I mean, could you imagine how one
And
of those
speaking of
buses
masks,
without a mask?
DW has a new mask from the bus, the transportation area, so,
Well,
yeah.
Nice.
Mr. Brodsky, I was just questioning this because I just want you to know that, you know, we understand you have to have these allocations approved, and so we
Thank
want to make sure that, you know, it gets on the agenda, or if we have to, for some reason, have a special meeting, we know that's a priority to get
Thank you.
these
And
teachers.
for the remainder of this week, you know, I would anticipate meeting 3 hours on student numbers every afternoon. And then if we need to add it on to there, we will before the 48 hours, but we believe that we have enough currently to cover all those 10-day counts. I would also expect that there could be some movement of personnel as a result of the 10-day count. It's one of those years that's very different from every other year. Okay, back to the number 5. We did allow people to turn in overnight student travel, with the caveat being that it may be possible that they not occur, you know, based on the situation that we're under at that particular time. Everybody's nervous and they want to reserve their spot. Okay, but reserving your spot doesn't mean that you're necessarily gonna go. Okay, so don't be alarmed if you see that in there. Okay, we're on number 6. It's a dual enrollment agreement between us and St. John's River State College. There's 3 or 4 of these in there. It's a standard practice for dual enrollment students. For number 7, St. John's River State College, it's collegiate high school, which is a great program in Orange Park and Middlebrook High School.
How many students do we have enrolled in those?
I don't know the exact number of students. I can find that out relative to that. I know that when I go to their graduations and they say that they graduated from that, it's prestigious for students. You know, you have IB at Ridgeview High School, and you have ACE at Oakleaf High School. You got to try to provide, you know, and Fleming Island, you got to provide equity for all of our schools when it comes to advanced programs. And of course, Santa Fe College and dual enrollment.
It's the only one.
Keystone
The
area.
advanced one they have.
But there's a huge number of students that go through that program there. It's impressive.
Yeah, as we hear every year, how many kids graduate with their
More than the
associate's
rest of the
degree?
county combined.
It's
Yeah.
more than the rest, yeah.
Because that's the only program they have for the advanced, so.
Yeah,
So
they do a good job with that.
number 8 is Emory-Riddle, same sort of dual enrollment agreement there, and it actually lists the classes that are taken on one of the pages into the contract. Number 9 is dual enrollment with FSCJ. This must be the month to renew all dual enrollment agreements. For number 10, these are overnight trips related to CTE. Again, they're reserving a spot, looks like they're reserving a spot for March and June of next year relative to their state and national conferences. And we pray that things will be better, certainly by that point. Number 11, it's mileage paid to parents and group homes. This is a standard practice every year that we pay mileage for those students that are in exceptional education programs at group homes. Number 12 is the contract with parent liaison. Of course, I'm sure everyone's aware we have a parent liaison that actually is employed by the district but advocates for ESE students and their families. Many times there's complex issues related to the student and educational services, and this is a person that parents turn to and rely on to advocate for their child. So it's a great program, and we have great rapport. Number 13, Sunbelt Staffing Solutions. This is for speech language services. Not all speech folks are district hired, direct hired. Some are actually contracted out. There's a national speech language shortage. For 14, Capella University, an agreement between the district and Capella, same sort of articulation agreement. For 15 is 7 Mindsets, which 7 Mindsets is a program that's been used in the district for 2 years relative to SB 7030, which meets the requirement for social emotional learning for our students. For number 16 is the school health plan. This is a standard practice every year that we have to submit a school health plan with our local health department, developed jointly.
Did we have to change it this year because of the COVID
They
situation?
did some changes related to COVID, but it wasn't wholesalely changed from previous years. You know that what happens at schools now is just so much different. You know, just going out to several schools yesterday and seeing them. I'll just say that I was totally impressed, because one of the things I was interested in each school was the clinic and what isolation area they had, because I see that as a really big deal. Don't need to tell you the hiring of nurses is still a challenge for the district due to our pay cycle there.
Additional training required with COVID for the nurses?
Yes, additional training through the health department, and also Kristen Reeby, who's our district contact, relative to that. So number 17 is an agreement between the health department to provide for upcoming school year. This is a standard contract that's been done each year related to health services. Number 18 is proposed allocation change. And if you kind of look at that one, you can see the 72 teachers that went to CEA and where they came from and all of that. I will tell you that I'm particularly proud of the team relative to the movement of people. To think that, and of course, the collaboration with the teachers, etc. Just to think that we moved that many people. We did have a couple of upset folks, but overall, when you look at the massive amounts, almost 24% of our students taking a different venue than we've ever done before, and the movement of people to CBA. And I know there were some questions about CBA and not starting right on time. Some parents wanted to start at 7:30 yesterday morning, and it's a different sort of environment, and I tried to communicate back out again some of the differences that are going to exist. I will tell you that I don't remember what school I was at, but I remember walking in the classroom and seeing an OCO teacher at her desk and teaching from her classroom, and it was pretty impressive, the stuff that she was doing. I mean, she was literally holding up the book to the kids, and so all the kids on the screen. I tried not to photobomb from the back, but I was, I had to get closer because I can't see well, as to the kids and what they were doing, and it was pretty impressive. And where were we?
That's Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt, that school was, that they were doing a really good job. But you could tell that the movement of people is significant this year. Will give a a precursor to everybody that I do believe that there'll have to be more movement after the 10-day count due to numbers. It's just the way that it's going to work this year, so.
So I have one question, and I opened it up, and the first thing I see is Coppergate with 2 allocations deleted, and Coppergate's who I spoke to last night with their kindergarten problem.
So-
They have 2 kindergarten teachers that each have
So-
24.
So the class size will be looked at by, in that particular case, the K2, and then 3 through 6 is a separate band when it comes to class size. It wouldn't be unusual in the scheduling process to just have some classes that are higher than others, and there's a leveling process. I can tell you at the secondary level, that happens routinely for the first 10 days of school. So it is possible to have an elective class, particularly one that's not under the class size amendment cap, that would be higher than normal, and then we would work to move those students to hopefully level them all out when it comes to class size and social distancing and all the issues that we're trying to face there. But it's going to be a process, because remember, particularly in the case of OCO, you have students that are receiving instruction from a teacher at a different location. So it's quite possible to be a student at one school, and the teacher for one particular class of the 6 classes is actually a teacher at another school. Because if only, a wild example, if only 10 students at a particular school sign up for a particular class, that class typically, back in the old days, wouldn't have made it. We just wouldn't have had, we couldn't offer that service to that student because there wasn't enough students who wanted the class in a supply-demand type of scenario. But now we've taken those students and combined them with students at another school. So that adds to the complication of the scheduling, as well as student enrollment numbers, as well as staffing. So you just kind of visualize all of that coming to a head. It was important when we first started down this road that we provided an option to parents. We expanded those options to include being attached to a school, which is what most parents wanted. And in order to do that, this is the only way to make those allocations work. And so it'll create complications both ways. It's going to create complications for us to start the year and to ensure that we're properly staffed at every school. It's going to take those 10 days to do that. But then also, parents are going to want to come back. And then there's a reverse process that's going to have to occur. Once we're in better times and better days relative to that. So this is a very complex process. I just want to give the general view of that so you can understand when you get a question or an email or a phone call that that's what's going on. And if you just pass those to me, I promise you I'll give good customer service to
We're good at that.
to whoever it is.
Well, we
Okay.
appreciate the work that everybody's doing, and I know it's not easy and it's a lot, but I'm still wondering about Coppergate. Will this be adjusted before the board meeting? You're deleting
We're
2
gonna
from
look at every
Coppergate.
school, every class by class, and we're gonna take a look at the number of allocations we have total for the district. Because it may be that we might be short in one area, and then we could make that adjustment. Once I'm certain that we would need additional allocations, which we already have 10 kind of in the queue, I guess we'll call it, 10 ready to go. I don't believe, based on initial student numbers, that we would need more than 10
Okay,
in order to make that work.
all right.
If we did, you would know about it by Tuesday, within 48 hours of the board meeting. So right now, we're assessing, we only had 1 day. So we're very proud of our 1 day, but we'll see how this goes the next couple of days before we make a final.
Vicki, have you had a lot of issues with teachers calling and saying their classes are overcrowded?
A few, and it varies. And, the brick and mortar, of course, is our biggest concern, but we have a lot of OCO classes that are very high as well, and we need to be treating those averages the same as brick and mortar. I understand we're not there yet. There's a lot of adjusting, and sometimes the kids may not have logged on or shown up yet.
Okay.
So, we only had 1 day, so I think we do have to take a few days. I don't want to wait 10 if we can help it.
Right.
But we do have to take a few days to see who's moving where and whether they show up.
So Ms. Kidwell brings a
They're
good,
working together.
Yes.
Yeah, good, oh, yeah, a good
Yeah, I
point.
call him all the time.
Well, it's important
She
that
does,
you're
it's
you're
being-
working,
yeah,
collaborating,
yeah.
we know.
So she does bring up a very good point, you know, just because a person shows up on a focus report as a student, until we've actually seen that student or that student logs on, in the case of OCO, we don't know that we actually have that student. And so sometimes people are slow starters to school, and they don't come the first couple of days.
I can't understand that.
And then
School starts at
well, I
7.
think people would know that this day was coming at some point. It's not a new concept. It's
But
gonna
we
start
doing
And
something
it's the
today.
OCO
Ashley has been doing a check off on her calendar.
She has big X's.
It's not necessarily the younger
Lunch is
kids,
made,
it's the
backpack's
high school
ready.
students as well. And the high school students are communicating with their friends, and so they understand that there's work out there to be done. And I speak from my daughter's experience. She's been in school now for a week, and she still has kids coming to her, calling her and saying, hey, I need the codes for the quiz. And she tells the student, she's teaching like online at the same time as teaching a group of students. And she tells the student, and this is an online student, she said, you haven't checked in yet. And the little girl goes, well, I'm doing vertical education.
That's a good one.
Okay, vertical education. And Katie thought about it, she goes, oh. And she literally had to walk her through the process. The girl was ready to take the first quiz. She hadn't produced it, she hadn't shown up yet. But it was like, okay, we have to work on this. So there are, I mean, a lot of parents are like, okay, you're in high school, you're old enough to know what to do, go. I don't know all of this technical stuff, you do it. The question that I had was regarding the specialty programs, IB, ACE. I know a couple of those classes are getting more full because of the numbers game and how we're settling, et cetera. Is that also being
Yeah,
considered?
we're gonna look at every school, every class by class.
Including,
in order to
because
make
that's the
those
only,
decisions.
that's one of the responses, I guess I
So
could say, that I received.
I think Ms. Bola brings up an interesting challenge that my team has faced, which is when people signed up for a particular forum or platform, I think sometimes they didn't realize what they signed up for.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we've had some interesting conversations from stakeholders relative as to what they thought and versus what it is. And so, you know, we're working through all of that, and I think that Ms. Pickett probably is the person who's fielded more calls than anybody relative to,
You're so good at it.
you know, relative to
give them what
that.
they want.
And so, I think the most interesting one was a parent that had called a teacher who was an OCO teacher and said, hey, you know, I know that school starts at 8 o'clock, but we really don't get up till 8:30. And so is there something we can do? Something we can do about that? So,
We want classes in the evening.
You know,
That happens with Clay Virtual.
I know it does.
Parents
Kids
come home
did it,
and now it's
yeah.
time.
So
Yeah.
we do have a bunch of interesting stories from day one. But you know, everybody, in defense of those parents, everybody has a different level of engagement in the educational process. And so, you know, our job is to provide the best service to everybody regardless of where they're at in their receptiveness to education, because it's a benefit to all of society and our entire county. So we've always taken that approach, but it takes a little bit of time to work through that, because now you have literally thousands of people that are in that boat. So this is not a normal year. So we handle them one at a time and make sure we get back to those people in a prompt time frame, and then try to, you know, straighten it out and educate, and, you know, as we go along the process. But this is not a normal school year, I guess, is what I'm trying to point out to everybody. And so you will have some interesting questions thrown your way.
Mr. Brodsky, if we have somebody that contacts us that's been at brick and mortar and decides that this isn't working for our family, is there an avenue for them?
You can just send if it's an email, just send it to me,
Okay.
and then I'll problem solve. So one of the challenges is that we've already disrupted all the staffing to put it where it's at. And so typically, if we're going to assess whether there are spots available for that individual, and then advise, you know, based on that. So it's very challenging when it means staff being moved, class size is being impacted, And how do we do that? At the same time, I recognize the need to provide good customer service to parents, and so trying to balance those two things is a very challenging kind of event, but we'll do the best that we possibly can. All right, well, that was a good off topic. We're up to 19. 19, the budget amendment report, the standard practice of budget amendment report from Dr. Legutko. Number 20, the superintendent's annual financial report, that'll be added. I think Dr. Legutko is still working on that one. It'll be there within 48 hours. It's a standard every year practice. 21 is the deletion of certain items report. 22 is the bid for ice cream and frozen novelties. I took particular note of this particular item.
Are they bringing samples? Because I think this should be something.
Yeah, we probably need to have a taste test to make sure.
A tasting day.
For 23, the maintenance department procedure manual. Okay, you can see a draft copy of that in there. I think that the updating of this was a recommendation of the OPAGA audit. And then 24, Florida Safe Schools Assessment Acceptance Letter. There'll be a special presentation at the next meeting by Chief Wagner. For 25, pre-qualification of contractors. 26 is the substantial completion of Dr. Zimmerman Elementary cafeteria. I just tell you, I gotta stop in there. I've driven by there.
I know.
And it looks beautiful from the road. What an upgrade there at Doctor's Inlet.
The next one we gotta look at is Keystone Elementary. They made a cafeteria big time down there.
Yeah. 27 is the change order relative to the Doctor's Inlet Elementary cafeteria expansion. 28 is substantial and final completion of Clay High School's erosion control stormwater repair. Then that brings us into the discussion agenda, of which there's no special actions at this time. And then the public hearing for the Code of Student Conduct. If you can recall, we already approved the Code of Student Conduct, but there was one piece that was missing from the original one, which had to do with, important one, the use of technology. That whole piece was missing out of there, and so this would bring us with that piece in there, and that's why if you're wondering why you've seen that, that's the reason why. And that's the end of the agenda.
Wonderful.
Tina, didn't we get an email? Were you adding a policy change?
I did, I don't see that
That's
on there.
on the next
It's in
meeting.
the
It's on the next
Oh.
one, I think, yeah.
Okay,
It will not come up again until October.
Gotcha.
great. Next is questions from the audience. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Okay. Superintendent comments?
No, it was a great day yesterday. It was exciting. I didn't sleep the night before. But it's 31, I think it was 31 years. I've never slept the night before kids have come back. I'm always excited about it, always nervous. This year especially, takes on a new importance. And I didn't really see any issues. I saw a bunch of cute kids. I tell you what, I miss going to an elementary school and not having the elementary, background. It was so cool. I went the first time, I was so used to giving like high fives with the kids, and they were all in line. I had to remember no. So the new thing was thumbs up, and they all quickly, they quickly adapted to thumbs up, and they all put their thumbs up. And just the positiveness of the teachers that we were around. We wanted to see both OCO teachers as well as brick and mortar teachers. Our teachers have really adapted well to this particular situation. Nobody's asked for this situation to be upon us. And to have a successful first day like that was fantastic. It really was. So transportation, really, we had nothing of substance. Of course, some buses were late, which you have to expect that with first day. Bus drivers were very positive. Mr. Sweat reported he called it a new sense of pride, because they had new buses with air conditioning, and, you know, if you're given the tools that you need, you know, you feel better about the job you do, and so, you guys should all be proud for the decisions you made to make that happen.
It's that new bus smell.
For buses. Yesterday, and just in going and seeing, classrooms, didn't run into any issues on topics that I thought we would run into issues with, such as the use of face coverings. You know, I was in a lot of classrooms, and I suppose it'll vary between school to school. But the classrooms that I worked in, the overwhelming majority of, you know, we're talking better than 95%, even in the K through 3 classes, students were wearing a face covering. I did find it interesting that it became a fashion statement. Everybody had their own fashion, like, you know, little boys had on Superman. You know, everybody had their own little flair. I did see one young lady with a huge glittery bow, kind of, then had the face mask that matched the color, which also matched the sneakers. And I thought, you know, everybody, the first day, you gotta put your best on and go out there, but just the spirit of it.
Boys are so much easier.
Yeah. Just the spirit of it, and being out in schools and seeing what we do, you know, and, you know, it was heartwarming to see young kids in school with caring adults there. I'll just tell you, it was, you know, it kind of reminds you why we do what we do. You know, sometimes we do all of this stuff, and we, you know, have large numbers of papers and stuff, and sometimes we might lose sight of the fact or the reason why we do what we do. When you go out to school, especially in that environment, of course, you know, when I was at Fleming Island, you know, the media was there and all of that. You know, everybody's curious, right? We're the hottest topic right now in the news, right? Public education. And so just to kind of have that kind of scrutiny and to see how people are adjusting was fantastic. I would anticipate that we will have people who will email board members or email superintendents or others, because you know, I did deal with one email from a parent who basically wrote me to tell me that her child had told them that in one of their classes they didn't have 6 feet in between, you know, and so you know, we are going to do the very best that we can. But people would need to realize, if you have a building with 1,000 people in it, they are going to get closer than 6 feet on occasion. We try to limit that as much as possible, but that is going to happen. And so I did respond back politely, you know, about how that would all work and all of that. So when I talk about communication, I think that this is our biggest challenge, is how to communicate with people where everybody's on the same page and has the same level of understanding when it comes to those particular issues, both on the wearing of face coverings, the issue of social distancing, as well as the issue of if a person does test positive. I think that all of those issues require outstanding communication skills. And so that's kind of, if you ask me, what do I think the biggest challenge is going to be, it's not our students and not our teachers. The biggest challenge is just communication with our parents, and so that everybody's on the same page when it comes to the opening of schools. So,
What are we doing about breaks for the kids from the mask? I know we got an email yesterday from, and you responded very, very quickly to it. But is there a scheduled time for them to have a break besides recess?
Yeah, we're going to work, you know, on that. I don't think we've kind of scheduled a break time. I think that teachers are doing that, because teachers do what they've always done.
There was another email from Ms. Marks, a family from her school, and she responded like immediately.
Yeah.
And she came back
That was wonderful.
immediately with they were scheduling face mask breaks.
Yeah.
So I really think it's up to the individual school,
Yeah.
like we talked about before.
Based on their
It's
schedule.
once that environment is set up and once their routines are set up, those are the sorts of things
It'll
that
become
are
habit.
per
routine.
school. I don't think it's appropriate for the district office to say, you must take a mask break every 20 minutes or something.
We
Because
had
that's not appropriate in
we had
every
already
classroom.
advised to
Kids
build
do
in
need a
mask
break.
You had,
breaks and to do
right,
that.
right.
You have to be
So
aware
there's,
that
yeah,
they do need
they're
a break
handling it.
and get.
I agree with you though, Ms.
Yeah.
Marks did an excellent
Oh,
job.
on
A
top of
quick
it, oh, yeah.
response and a very good response. I
So
was
that
And
impressed.
then the other issue was the calzones. I mean, if we can tell which is the cheese calzone and which is the pepperoni calzone, that would be, you know, a little bit.
So I will say this.
Which is important, that is, I mean, those are.
For our stakeholders, I'm very proud of the community, because I think the community recognizes the situation that we're in, and I think that they were patient to understand that, because when you look at just the scheduling of students and making sure that everybody's in the right spot with their OCO brick and mortar, I think most parents, maybe we got 5 emails that we dealt with, but I think they recognize the situation, and everybody has the spirit of cooperation, which is so very important. So I'm very thankful and feel very blessed about that.
And I can tell you that the few emails that I've had personally, my immediate response is, you need to talk to your child's teacher. That if there's an issue in the classroom, then that's the appropriate chain of command.
Yes.
So start with that, and then talk to the principal if that's not effective, and then bring me in if we need to at that point. But I think it's important that we support our staff at the schools and encourage parents to take their problems directly to the people who can fix it for them. So.
Okay. School board comments, Ms. Carrickus?
I, don't really have anything. Like we just talked about the opening, it seemed, with it being a difficult year, it went as smooth as possible. And we got very few emails about it, so, and, no bus transportation at all, like we said, which is unusual. So, just kudos to the whole team for doing a fabulous job. But other than that, congratulations to you and to Mary, and 4 more years, here we go.
Okay, Ms. Gilhousen?
Nothing for me.
Okay, Ms. Miller?
Nope, good, just.
Okay, everything's good. Ms. Boland?
2 quick things. It was interesting seeing the post yesterday on the Facebook page, and there was one comment, I don't know if any of you caught it or not, that after all of the pictures of people going around to the schools, and which I missed incredibly, as I felt at a loss yesterday. I wanted to be in a school so badly, but I thought, routines need to get established first. But there was one mom who said, now that I'm seeing this, I wish I hadn't selected the district or the distant learning option. They saw how the classrooms were set up. They saw what precautions that we were taking. I thought that was great. Secondly, I did get to the bus barn yesterday morning, loved it, as always, waving to the bus drivers. First thing in the morning, they were happy. I have to say that when they opened up those doors and we were handing out bottles of water and just saying thank you, the whoosh of air conditioning was really, really welcome. And yes, each of you gets a mask, so that's provided. One of the things that Mr. Sweat pointed out also, which I thought was interesting, with these new buses, I know that there's some controversy, 100 school buses, how could you afford that sort of thing? These buses are truly state-of-the-art. I mean, when you're seeing them in the dark, number one, you can see these buses in the dark, and a lot of it has to do with the LED lighting. A lot of it has to do with the safety precautions that are taken on the exterior of the bus. The interior of the bus. The CDC had suggested for buses to open their windows, and it's like, really? We just bought these air-conditioned buses and we have to open all of these windows. In these particular buses, it is recommended, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they open like one window, and that there is a built-in circulation system in these new buses so that the air is circulated out. And I thought, dynamite, that's exactly what we need for those. There was some late bus. Yesterday I was at an appointment, and the comment was the bus was 5 minutes early. And I thought, yay! We're on time, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And I explained, I said, in the GPS system that we have on our buses, that there is an opportunity to see when the buses arrive, when the bus is at the stop, when the bus leaves. And so if there's ever a question, you call the transportation services. That's something that's huge for these families. But yeah, that was fun. It was at least part of opening days, but you guys had all the fun going to the schools.
Okay, I just want to say how proud I am of all of you, our teachers, our support staff. Y'all have worked so hard for so long, and yesterday I feel like it was a total success. Considering the number of emails that we have gotten sometimes in the past years, yesterday was relatively calm. And, you know, there's a few minor glitches, but, you know, as you said, give it a few days. We've just got to have some patience. We'll get it worked out. I've been very pleased with the response to parents' emails, to the different people that I forwarded to. Poor Mr. Daly, he hates to see my emails. He has taken care of everything, but if you know, one of those comes, I just send it to him and he's right on it. I mean, it's done. And Mr. Brodsky, you're always easy to find, thank goodness. But it just makes me so proud, and I know the board wants to say this to every one of you, whether you are a principal or a district administrator or a staff member, bus driver, cafeteria worker, our teachers, they have stepped up to the plate, and you know, the one clay, we are one clay, and we get the job done, so that makes me very proud. And so here's to a second good day. Let's keep it going. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting. And our next meeting is at 10 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I only got one.
Oh, that's okay.
I can get to talk.
I'll ask you next time. I forgot. You're not on the agenda.
So,
Did you want to say?
Just so you'll know,
Wardrobe change?
there will be
I
two
like
more
this.
things
These are
added to
cool.
the agenda
They're recent.
under consent. They're both for